I'm Natalie Hodson, and I'm here today in the bodybuilding.com kitchen, and I'm showing you how to make my really easy salsa chicken recipe. So this is a really good recipe, and I make it all the time. It's a great thing that you can make on the weekend when you're bulk prepping for the week. And it's really versatile, so you can eat it in a lot of different ways. You can freeze it so it lasts a really long time. And it's a really family-friendly recipe too. I have a 2-year-old, and a lot of times I can trick him into eating this instead of chicken nuggets for lunch. And today what I'm gonna do after we make it is I'm going to eat it as a wrap. All right, so this is a really simple recipe. It only includes 3 ingredients. And so I just buy boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I usually buy this in 4 or 5 pounds increments. And then I get diced tomatoes. If you can find some that have no sodium or low sodium, then that's a little bit better option. But just regular diced tomatoes are fine. And then any kind of salsa will work. I've even used the green salsa, and that tastes really good too. The main thing that I just want to emphasize is that you want to read the ingredients when you buy your salsa. And you want to make sure that it doesn't have any sugar in the ingredients list or high fructose corn syrup. And sometimes it's really hard to find a salsa that doesn't have sugar. So if you can't find one without sugar, just try to find the one that has it as the last ingredient or the second to last ingredient. And then a crock pot, and I have mine preheated on high. You can cook it on high or low, just depending on how much time you have. So the only real work for this recipe is trimming the fat off the chicken, and so that's what we're gonna do here right now. So just open up the container. Now, some people have asked me before, can you use frozen chicken with this recipe? And you can. The only thing is that there are some health risks with putting frozen chicken straight into the crock pot because it's defrosting at the same time that it's cooking. And so you might want to pull out your frozen chicken and put it in the fridge the day before, let it defrost, and then the next day put it in your crock pot. So the chicken breasts usually have a little bit of fat on the edges and sometimes have some tendons, and I don't really like to have that in my recipe because obviously if we can make it leaner, we are going to do that. So anything that's the gross white part is the fat, and I just trim it off until there's not very much left. And then what I usually like to do is cut the breasts into half or maybe even into thirds, and that just helps it cook a little bit faster. This one really doesn't have much fat on it, so I'm just gonna cut it in half and set it to the side. And then these. You'll find some brands of chicken tend to have more fat on it or more of the connective tissues, and other brands are pretty good about getting it off beforehand. So just gonna cut this aside, just throw this in the trash. And anytime you're handling raw chicken, you just want to be really careful to wash your hands whenever you're done touching the raw chicken for risk of salmonella. So now all we have to do is put the chicken in the crock pot. So I'm going to take off my lid, and I have this preheated to high. You can also cook it on low, just depending on how much time you have. And just gonna get your hands kind of dirty. And you just put the chicken in the bottom of the crock pot, and then I already opened my can of diced tomatoes, but I just take a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes, and all I'm going to do is just pour that on top. And don't drain the liquid. Make sure you put the liquid in. It's going to help the chicken stay nice and moist. And then I have my salsa, and you just pour that on top. And then just kind of take my knife, or you can take a fork, and just make sure that the chicken is covered with your tomatoes and salsa. And if you like more of a salsa taste, you can use a little bit more salsa. If you like more of a tomatoey taste, you can use a little bit more tomato, but that's how I do it. I put the lid on and then make sure I wash my hands because we've been touching raw chicken. And that's it. It's one of the easiest recipes ever. I make this all the time on the weekends. And then, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this chicken cook for 3 hours on high, maybe 4 hours. If I were gonna do low, I would do anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. And then what's gonna happen is that the chicken is going to sort of shred apart, And so when I'm done cooking it at the end of 3 hours or maybe up to 4 hours, I'll just take a fork and a knife and I'll check the chicken and I'll just sort of shred it apart. So we're gonna let this chicken cook and I'll see you guys back again in about 3 hours. All right, so we've had the chicken in the crock pot for 3.5 hours now, and it looks pretty good. If you've been cooking it on low, you'll wanna cook it about 7 to 8 hours, or on high, you'll wanna cook it between 3 to 4 hours. So we're gonna take the lid off. It smells really good. And the way you can tell it's done, usually what I do is I take a knife and a fork, and I just put my knife into the chicken, and if it naturally shreds apart like that, then you know it's done. And so I like to shred my chicken, and so what I'll do is I'll just put my fork in here and shred the chicken. But you don't have to do that. You could just take it out and eat it as the chunks of chicken like that. So I'm gonna shred a little bit here. And sometimes it makes it a little bit easier if you take the chicken out and shred it like on a plate and then put it back in. And there's lots of different ways that you can serve this. This recipe is really versatile. You could serve it with rice. You could just eat it as is with roasted vegetables if you're trying to watch your carbs. But what I'm gonna do today is turn it into a wrap. It's actually my favorite way to eat it. And so I'm just gonna take some of the chicken that I shredded and put it in my wrap. Now the wrap that I'm using today, it is a Food for Life brand Ezekiel wrap. I'll show you here. And I really like using this style of bread and tortillas and this brand particularly. It's made from sprouted grains, and so there's no gluten, there's no wheat in it. So if you have a gluten or wheat intolerance, this is a really good option. And it has a complete protein in it, so it's similar to the protein found in eggs or milk. And I just really like this brand. And so I have my Food for Life tortilla and then my chicken. You can weigh your chicken if you want. Typically I do between 4 to 6 ounces, but today I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it, use about the size of your fist. That looks pretty good to me. And then now I'm gonna add some spinach, and I like using spinach instead of lettuce just because it's full of vitamin A, calcium. It actually has twice the fiber of all of their dark leafy green vegetables. And then, so I know a lot of people like to use sour cream, but I found a healthier alternative that I think tastes just as good. So I use non-fat plain Greek yogurt, make sure it's the unflavored kind, the plain kind. And I'll just add maybe a tablespoon, maybe 1.5 tablespoons, and put it on top. And by itself, it tastes not that great. So that's why I squeeze some fresh lime juice on top. And the combination tastes really, really good. And you could add lots of other things here if you wanted. You could add onions, you could add even some olives if you wanted. But this looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and taste it and see how it tastes. I'm just gonna wrap this up. This might be a little bit messy. It tastes really, really good. So if you'd like to make this recipe, check the page below. And for all my other recipes, as well as lots of nutritional information and motivation, keep coming back to bodybuilding.com.